Free as a Bird by Beowulf's Return, a Batman All Media Types fanfic, with additional tags for Wingfic, Alternative Universe, Wings, Hurt Comfort, Stephanie Brown-centric, Body Horror, Transformation, Bat Family, Alternative Universe, Canon Divergence, Alternative Universe, Fantasy, Pack Feels, Pack Dynamics, Cryptid Bat Family, Bat Parent Arthur Brown, Stephanie Brown Needs a Hug. Summary: Gotham had its protectors, bird-like creatures that people knew under the names of Batman, Nightwing, and Robin. Stephanie, even though she was running across the same roofs as them, leaving clues to spoil her father's plans, was decidedly not one of them. After all, she lacked the iconic wings the bats had. But while the bats came closer to catching her dad, her back begins throbbing, and the back pain won't go away. Is this a sign or a warning? It hurts like hell anyway. Alternatively, how Stephanie became a bird. Gotham was never silent. However, it was also never loud until it was. Stephanie ran through the streets, trying to stay in the shadows to get to her next location. She needed to get there before the bats, otherwise she would be completely lost where to put her tips. The radio she had hooked up to her earbuds created static again. She looked around with a careful eye. Careful to seem like a random civilian. She really didn't need the bats on her trail today. Batman would surely make her stop. After all, she was just a girl, and they were weird eldritches with wings. She didn't even think they could talk beyond their bird-like chatters that you would hear echo on clear nights. A thought flickered through her head as she realized she was on the corner of her mom's old work before Dad made her stop working. A memory back to the time when it wasn't all bad. When her mom would laugh and her dad was more gone than home. When money hadn't been the only thing that meant something at home, and there was a silent content in their home. A far cry from her situation now. Her mom had left last week, and Stephanie didn't think she was coming back. The night before, her dad had punched her mom in the stomach. Stephanie had left through the bathroom window and escaped to the roof. When she returned, her mom was silently crying on the couch. Dad was gone, like so many other nights. As she walked past, she felt the urge to hug her mom, to tell her it'll be okay, that she was working on getting her dad caught in a way that would lock him away for a long time. But all that came from her was a soft coo, and her hands trailing on her mom's head. Some nights she wished her mom would fight for her, that they would leave together, but alas, her mom was barely surviving as is. They were both broken people, and it wasn't fair for Stephanie to expect anything. Her breath shuddered as she walked to her bedroom. A cold tingle went up her spine and settled between her shoulder blades. Her back hadn't been the same since. Back in the present, she made it just in time to hide in an abandoned apartment across from the roof, with her clues. It was risky to see the bats find her clues, but something in her wasn't satisfied until she knew that they had found her tips. She watched as Robin searched the whole roof for more clues. She had no idea how the birds aged, but if she had to guess, he'd be around her age. Their conversation, always in that weird bird-like tongue of theirs, seemed to be light-hearted. Robin seemed to be annoyed that Steph had covered her tracks so well. Boo-hoo, bird boy. Better luck next time, she smiled to herself. Her back ached. She rolled her shoulders. Maybe if she got lucky, she could take a hot shower tomorrow. That might help. It had been going on for weeks like this. Especially that middle spot that you just couldn't reach on your own. And it wasn't like Steph really had anyone in her life who could check it. Ha! She literally had no one to watch her back. Isn't that ironic? As the bats left to hopefully pursue Cluemaster, she silently made her way back home. Gotham Doctors Free. Stephanie Googled underneath her table at school. She frowned while she scrolled through the results. Almost all of them led to Wayne Enterprises' website. And while she didn't mind the Waynes too much, she could not help the feeling that there was something off about the guy and his sons. No one was that nice. Tim, his youngest son, had some classes at her public school. Something about a city-wide AP program he was a part of. She once read the brochure for it. And although it seemed really cool, there was no way she would ever have the time to do something like that, next to her nightlife activities. A jolt of pain reminded her why she was Googling in the first place. The pain in her back was now a near constant. She wondered if it was something she might have picked up outside. But she hasn't really fallen off of any roofs lately. Miss Stephanie, what do we deem more important than history? Her head shot up, and she looked straight into her history teacher's eyes. A stern older man who seemed to have decided he did not like her from the very first day. Her eyes darted to the front of the classroom. Communist revolution. Got it. I was Googling pictures of Stalin. I heard he's hot, she said mischievously. Out of the corner of her eye, she could see another girl flipping out her phone to check. I don't see how the physical appearance of one of the worst dictators we've ever known adds to your understanding. Oh, that's because you haven't seen him yet, she interrupted. She wasn't feeling like taking a lecture today. Excuse me. You're excused. I mean, if he asked me to overthrow the government with him, I wouldn't exactly say no. Well, I never. You are truly something, young lady. Ha. She almost has him in a corner. Just a little distraction, and then in a few minutes, class would be over. The girl who looked up Stalin was now showing her phone around, and the girls around her started snickering. Steph hoped the guy was actually hot. Otherwise, she would look pretty stupid with sticking to her guns right now. The teacher followed her sight and turned towards the rest of the class, finally noticing the uproar Stalin was, once again, causing. He tried to get their attention, and was failing considerably. Meanwhile, Stephanie slowly started to gather her stuff, ready to sneak off as soon as the bell sounded. The teacher was almost red in the face when he turned back to her. You. He pointed a finger at her. Me? She mouthed back, feigning surprise. You're always messing up my classes. You're going to detention, kid. Well, fuck. Maybe it's a cliché. Maybe it was meant to be, considering her search history. But when she walked into detention, she was met with none other than Timothy Drake Wayne. Steph rolled her eyes while she sat next to him. She wanted to slouch, but the pain in her back kept her upright. Why did she talk back to that teacher again? Especially today. Tonight had a big chance that she'd finally get her dad caught. Her mind wandered while she was waiting for the time to pass. Shifting once in her own seat only made her pain amplify. If her dad truly got caught tonight, she'd allow herself a day off school tomorrow, and go to a clinic in the afternoon. Maybe that one in the Bowery. That was usually the one that asked the least questions. Soft muttering distracted her from her thoughts. Closest language to Latin? No, not Italian, muttered the boy next to her. Tim seemed to chitter and squawk while he was working something out on his paper. It didn't look like normal homework, but she guessed it was probably something to do with fancy AP stuff. His brows were furrowed with concentration, and she couldn't help herself. Romanian, she whispered. He looked up, surprised, as if forgetting he was doing this in detention. What? His voice seemed different now. Closest language to Latin. Romanian, you know? His frown returned. I didn't realize I was speaking... Thanks, I guess. She smiled, glancing to the front only to see their attendant not paying attention. So, what are you working on? Some fancy language course? No, actually, it's some family thing, he answered. His hand was protectively around his paper as she tried to peer at it. My brother is actually from that region, so I was figuring out something for him. Why did he sound so proud of himself for that? Steph was pretty sure this guy was full-on lying to her. Again, these Waynes had weird vibes. Uncanny Valley or something. Might be the money. They said that Brucey funded Batman, after all. Maybe the weirdness of the bird protectors of Gotham rubbed off on the family or something. "Hey, are you okay? You seem tense," Tim offered. He had put away his paper. She gave him a confident smile. "Oh yeah, everything's totally fine. Just got some back pain from exercising, you know?" She said that last bit a little bit too enthusiastic, and this time it was Tim's turn to try not to react to her lying. "You should really get that checked out if it continues to hurt. Trust me, I know how much it can hurt." Did he? It wasn't like this spoiled kid was doing anything else other than gym regimens compiled by expensive personal trainers. "Sure, I will." "Oh, Willie, look at that." Saved by the bell. Literally. Steph got up faster than was good for her, and started walking. "See you around." "Good luck with those languages," she shouted behind her back. "Bye," he trilled back. His voice went as a shiver through her body. It sounded more like just a call. An unfamiliar feeling left her feeling warm, and for the first time in weeks, a genuine smile flashed across her face. Because of detention, she had missed the school bus. So the city bus it was. The pain continued. Steph was digging in her bag for her wallet to get out some cash for the corner store, while grumbling to herself, when she felt a pair of eyes on her. She looked up, annoyed to see she was being stared at by a toddler with huge eyes. Squinting at the kid, she turned back to her bag when she heard the kid ask their mom, "Mama, why does that girl make bird sounds?" Had she? A jolt of pain went through her back again, and she let out a sigh. Why it came out as a pitched trill, she really didn't know herself. Maybe she shouldn't keep that hospital visit until her dad got caught, because this was really becoming unbearable. Somehow, the sound reminded her of how Tim had said goodbye to her. And the sound felt more natural in her mouth than English right now. It felt safer than having to say full sentences somehow. Yeah. A hospital visit first thing tomorrow. But first, time to spoil her dad's plans. Cluemaster had been caught. Her dad was going to prison. Stephanie slumped in relief on the opposite rooftop from the warehouse her dad had just been caught in by Batman. Batman's imposing wings were out, and blocking most of her view, but she could still hear her dad curse from here. It was over. After almost 3 months of spoiling his plans, trying to lead Batman to get her dad, and all the crime she had saw around her, she was finally free. Steph almost felt light inside, a strange feeling opening up in her as she saw how Cluemaster was being handed over for transport to Blackgate. Soon, she'd go back to that apartment her mom abandoned a month ago, and think about what's next. But as everything wrapped up underneath her, her eyes drew themselves towards the skyline of Gotham. They say the city was cursed, and ugly under all that grime and crime, but Steph saw those lights, and streets she'd seen her whole life, and all she could think of was how grateful she was to be born here. In this weird fucked up place, to a dad who was a villain, because Gotham raised her better than that. That grime was the reason that every time he'd beaten her down, she'd gotten up. Gotham and its weird birds, Batman and Robin, had finally done something for her too. Her dad was going to jail, and Steph was finally free. At that moment, she felt like she could fly. A jolt of pain brought her back to the present. Her damned back. She ached. She seriously has to get it checked out, now that her dad is taken care of. Now, first, home. The black spot started when she could almost see her apartment. The lull of safety made her body shut down, and go into a different mode. Somehow, Steph made it up the stairs and into the house. It was the same as she had left it. A ratty 2-bedroom apartment with a kitchen and bathroom at least 30 years old. They had moved quite regularly when she had been growing up, but this apartment had been her home for the last 2 years. There was nothing really hers here. Too dangerous to grow attached when her dad could break it or throw it out any second. Nothing of worth either. All that had long been sold to a pawn shop. But it was safe now. Her dad wasn't coming back. Her back throbbed, and Steph slumped towards the bathroom. Maybe she could put a cold, wet towel on it. With trembling hands, she took off her costume until she was just wearing her bra. Her back pain was like a ball of flame just under her skin, like something wanted to break out. She screamed. No one would hear. It was just Steph and her pain, and suddenly there it was. A pop, a crunch, a feeling on her back, and a sag of relief. That tense feeling reeling through her body let go, and Steph slumped into herself. Something brushed against her back, and she had the strange feeling that she was moving wings? While she cried, her head started catching up, and between her staggered breaths, it wasn't human sounds that were coming out. Rather, she sounded like Robin on a distressed night, having bird-like sounds coming out of her. What was happening? What was she? Why this? Why did she ache so much? Slowly, she stood up, finding her balance with the new weight behind her shoulders. The sheer relief of the lack of pain outweighed the fact that the spot where the wings had emerged were still bleeding. Steph moved them experimentally. They listened to her just like her arms and legs did. Would she be able to fly with them? Batman and Robin could. Oh my god. Was she now an Eldritch too? Did this mean she had to quit school? Of course. You couldn't exactly go to school with wings. Not even in Gotham. She had always joined Batman. Wait, actually, her wings fluttered while she turned around to look at herself in the mirror. Her wings were bloody, but seemed grayish underneath. It reminded her of Pigeon Gray. What if she went to Batman and demanded him to teach her to fly? Then, once she could always escape and fly anywhere in the world. She could go find her mom, and they could live somewhere in the woods or something. Yeah, that sounded like a plan. She couldn't hide her wings while she prepped for the trek towards Wayne Manor. It was the only place she could think of where she might find a way to contact Batman. He'd know what to do with her wings. With her, she had to trust the rumors that the one and only Brucey funded the whole operation. And if she had it really wrong, she could probably talk the man into believing it was a Halloween costume. From what she knew from the tabloids, that man was stupid enough. Sticking on her mask and cutting holes in her least favorite shirt, she looked 4 degrees from Eldritch herself. But Gothamites knew better than to interact with the strangeness of their city. So whoever looked her way suddenly found the ground very interesting. At one point, she walked past a bus stop with a bus heading to Bristol, but the idea of being shut in suddenly made her very nauseous. It's safe to say that by the time she actually reached the manor, she was exhausted. Her new wings were still covered in blood, and were starting to feel itchy. And she felt so cold and dirty. The steps towards the front door seemed to loom in front of her. A low whine escaped from her mouth. While she trudged upward, it might as well have been Mount Himalaya. Finally, she reached the front door. Her hand went to the doorbell, and apparently, this was where her mind decided to tap out. Because the next thing she knew, she was looking at the same guy she had met in detention that afternoon. That seemed like 1,000 lifetimes ago. Fuck, she forgot he lived here too. Of course. Somehow she had been prepared to face Brucey, but not some random kid from school. He was staring at her with big eyes because, of course, this afternoon, she didn't have wings. Steph moved them unconsciously while thinking of them. And suddenly, the boy spurred into action. Bruce? I mean, I know we got our wings from Gotham, but why would she now be giving them out to random kids that dress up as superheroes? Tim whined, while he followed his dad, who held the girl in his arms. Her blonde hair was stained with blood. That must have undoubtedly come from her new wings. He was speaking a mix of English and the bird language that had come when they had received their wings. I know, chum, but her lady's ways are always unknown to us. Bruce rumbled back. They were walking towards the cave where the birds had nested. Of course, they lived upstairs, and every bat would swear up and down that they were just humans with a set of wings.
But when the night fell, every bird and bat would curl up in their nest together, preening their wings and finding safety in their flock. Tim's hand went around the pendant that had kept their wings hidden, and took it off the moment they entered the cave. His wings were spread in a pattern of brown, white, and orange. He shook off the remaining weight the magic had brought with it, and lifted it off the ground to use it, and get there before Bruce and the girl. "I'll get some water and clean towels." When Stephanie woke up, the first thing she felt was warm. The second was the safety only a flock could provide. She opened her eyes blearily. Flock? Family? Her mind provided. Damn, it was like she had gained a second set of primal instincts or something. A soft, curious chirp sounded next to her. "Are you awake?" That was Robin. But also not. He was missing the mask. This was... She knew that face too. Steph nodded, and watched while his smile widened. There were flashes of fangs there, but when she let her tongue go past her own teeth, she discovered that it felt like her own had been sharpened too. Not as much as the cryptid currently cuddling her, but definitely there. B literally just left to take a shower. He hasn't left your side since you arrived. I think you showed up all bloody and stuff, and knowing you had to go through the transformation alone kind of had his flock brain going in overdrive. Flock? The boy didn't respond, except for pulling her into a hug and nuzzling in the crux of her neck and shoulder. Oh, flock. It reminded her of that feeling she had felt when Tim had trilled at her back in detention. She looked at Robin again, but more awake this time. Beyond the feathers in her hair, and the eyes that seemed a few degrees left from human, he did really look like... Tim? Yeah, he responded without stopping his cuddling. Beneath them was the sound of a door being slammed. "Bruce!" Someone yelled. Damn, whoever this Bruce was, he sure was getting yelled at a lot, she thought, while she started to focus more on her surroundings. They were in some sort of nest in a cave, made out of pillows and blankets. It was incredibly soft. There were string lights strung up on the cave walls. Someone had clearly taken the time to make this a cozy place. She and Tim were laying in the middle of it. For the first time, she noticed Tim's wings that were tucked behind him. She'd never seen them up close, but seeing them like this made her realize they were similar to hers. Beyond Tim, there was a ledge that seemed to lead into a bigger space. It was from there that she could now hear voices from. So she's been the one leaving us those clues? An affirmative grumble was heard next. They were talking about her. Fuck, Batman was down there, wasn't he? Okay, calm down, Stephanie. You're in the Batcave. Bruce Wayne's son was Robin. Maybe that's why he funded the Batman's operations. There were two men down there talking about her. One of them, presumably Bruce. She still felt foggy from all that had happened, and the fact that the nest was so damn cozy. She must have zoned out, because she came back to someone nudging her. "Hey, Stephanie, this is my big brother Dick." She looked up to see a winged man crouching down a few feet from them. He was smiling and encouraging. A curious chirp sounded, and she realized to her own horror that it had come from her. "Was that me?" she whispered to herself. Tim looked at her weirdly. Yeah? We've been talking in birdsong the whole time," he answered. Birdsong? What's that kind of stupid name? Ouch! I was 9, okay? Blame B for not coming up with a better name before I came along. Dick moved a little bit closer, to join the conversation. He seemed to be in his early 20s, with brown feathers that seemed to have an undercut of blue in them. "You're Nightwing," she breathed. He smiled, and his wings flared up proudly. "No, wait, back on topic. Birdsong! We are speaking English, right? It's a side product of our gift. I thought you knew. I'm speaking it in detention, too. That's why I was so surprised when you answered my question. Normal humans shouldn't be able to understand it." Cool. Totally cool. So, why didn't I hear a difference? It sounds the same to me. "It'll come with time. Don't worry, you'll figure it out," Dick offered. She smiled weakly, and next to her, Tim trilled, high-pitched and full of happiness. And again, she felt that warm feeling of flock. Stephanie. A new voice joined their conversation, and she saw... Wait, hold up, is that Bruce Wayne? The fuck? The man just laughed, while he tucked his absolutely massive black wings behind him. I guess we can skip introductions, then. Dick quipped, with a knowing smile. Yeah, but you can't be Batman. I thought you were dumb. It was out of her mouth before she could stop herself. Well, she was never known for her poise anyway. Next to her, Dick and Tim fell over laughing. She was starting to hear the difference between their human and bird-like laughs. These laughs were almost screeches. Something she used to find unsettling about the bats. Now, it felt comforting. Bruce, to his credit, did let a small smile cross his face. Oh my Gotham, she just made Batman smile. She might have gotten her dad caught tonight, but this was definitely her highlight for the night. Luckily for Gotham, I'm not a complete airhead. Which is why Lady Gotham blessed me with my wings all that time ago. When I took Dick in, we quickly learned that the blessing extended to those who were picked by Lady Gotham. Or those who were destined to be part of the flock, Dick added in between. Bruce nodded. Since then, my children and I have used our blessing for good. We protect the city to the best of our abilities, but are able to live normal lives thanks to some magical artifacts, which we use to keep up appearances. Stephanie found herself settling into the nest, pulling her knees up to where she could rest her head on them while listening. We've seen you before. You were leaving us those notes, right? About Cluemaster. Spoiler, she added in a small voice. I was calling myself Spoiler. Dick smiled reassuringly. That's better than what we came up with. Timmy here has been calling you Barba Papa. Hey, you said you understood that reference. Yeah, you're lucky the circus spent a summer in France, because I'm probably the only one. The boys kept squabbling, and she felt a brush of a wing on her shoulder. When she looked up, Bruce was silently nodding to follow him to the side. I imagine you could use a preening session, he offered, and she didn't realize what he had meant until he gestured to her wings. I guess? I don't really know what to do with them yet. They walked over to the edge of the nest, where they found a bucket with hot water and some soap. Steph sat down in front of the man and tried to keep herself from going tense when she felt his hands going over her feathers. This wasn't her dad. Her breathing hitched, and she felt his hands fall still. Stephanie? Here it would come. He would start shouting at her for all she had done wrong, and this time she had no way out. I know your dad is Cluemaster. Of course, Batman would never want a kid related to one of his rogues. And I know your mom left. Rub it in, why don't you? She muttered back, ignoring the tears that had started running down her face. His hands picked up where they had left off again. It was a good feeling, getting preened. She couldn't deny it. It soothed, even if the man doing it didn't yet. I wondered how you would feel about staying here, with us. I could take you in as a foster. She snorted. Yeah, as if. Stephanie Brown, fostered by Brucey Wayne. What a joke. His hands stilled again. Stephanie? Something in his voice made her look back at the man. He wasn't even that old, she remarked now. He must have been pretty young himself when he took in Dick. She searched his face for lies, but couldn't find one. You're serious? Bruce smiled at his newest fledgling. Yes, sweetheart, I am. Gotham was a city of bats and birds. They protected their home with a fierceness no other could replicate, and there were whispers of a new bird, one with gray in its feathers, that shimmered purple under the right light. A girl, they whispered, who seemed to always get her subjects to talk, no matter what. A rumor went that she was born out of the city's grime, having walked the length of the city to find her flock. And now that she had joined her flock, no one was stopping her. Across town, Stephanie Brown found herself being fostered by Brucey Wayne. She found the same brochure she had read before, mysteriously showing up on her desk at the manor. Turns out, switching schools wasn't a big deal. Turns out, college, of all things, might actually be in the cards for her. Well, damn. Lady Gotham really had her ways, didn't she? Notes. Fun fact about this AU, because I'll probably not write any more about it. Bruce got his wings shortly after his parents died. He didn't realize he was a flock animal until Dick came around to live with him. Dick got his 3 months into being Robin. When Jason joined them at the manor, he got his really early because Gotham loves him. Tim got his just after he tried to get Dick back as Robin. When he rocked up to Wayne Manor, winged and all, Alfred put him in the Robin suit and sent him out to save Batman. Safe to say, both parties were slightly traumatized. Or, if we want to get super angsty, Jason didn't get his wings until he got resurrected. Therefore, he was the only non-winged vigilante for a while, and was really insecure about it. When he gets back to find out that Tim had his not even 6 months after his death, it makes him quite mad, you know? They have a magical thing that helps them conceal their wings. Don't think too hard about it. I didn't either. Tim was trying to decipher a code in detention. The thing about Romanian is true, from a certain standpoint. If you want to Google it, go for it. I just talked about it recently with my Romanian friend, so it was fresh on my mind when I made this fic. I was too much of a pussy to really add the whole pack bonds emotions thingy, but I'm gonna try more. This was my first stab at a wing fic, and I come from writing werewolf fics, so I'm still kinda getting used to the terminology that comes with the AU. But this fic popped into my head fully formed, and didn't leave me alone over Christmas break, so here we are. I'm not too familiar with Steph's character, so it's also quite out of character. I just tried to get a good balance of angst and fake confidence in there. Hope it works. Also, it's funny to see my writing evolve. With English being my third language, I used to never use words like feigned and furrowed in my writing. But after writing more and more fiction in this language, it's expanding. Oh my god, I forgot to leave kudos my first time. I'm gonna go take a little bit of a break to rest my throat, and then I'll probably record the next one. A stern older man, that's not what I voiced. Oh, that's because you haven't seen him yet. He's 100% seen him. Let's go, she's a fucking pigeon. I think I've made it clear that I like pigeons. Bruce, there's a girl at our door.